to Chat with Chondee. It's the relaunch episode, and I'm super excited. For those of you who are joining me again, and for those who might be joining for the first time, let me remind you that Chat with Chondee stands for something. The chat does. It stands for culture, health, arts, and travel because that's what I'll be talking about on my channel. So today, I just came back from a Bridgerton themed tea party. So that was fun. I might do a video on it. I did take some photos and a couple videos there. So you might be on the lookout for that video. But today, what I want to talk about is something very important. And I think it falls under the topic of health because it can affect your mental health as well as your physical health if you let it, okay? And that topic is forgiveness. So, you know how you look on your calendar, right? And it may be like National Hot Dog Day or something crazy like that. It seems like every day is some kind of national day, right? So I looked up September the 1st and it said that it was National Forgiveness Day. And it looks like forgiveness is so important. They couldn't even come up with just one day because it's also like September 27th and October something. But either way, I'm going to observe it September 1st, National Forgiveness Day. So let's jump into this topic and talk about forgiveness, okay? Okay, so for those who do know me in person and actually know me well, uh, they know I like words, okay? I'm a words person, I'm a writer, so of course I like words. So I like to know actual definitions of words. So let's look at the actual definition for forgive, okay? So, dictionary says forgive, to stop feeling angry or resentful toward someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. Stop feeling angry or resentful toward someone for a flaw, offense, or mistake, okay? And it says, what does it truly mean to forgive? And the mayoclinic.org says forgiveness means different things to different people, but in general, it involves an intentional decision to let go of resentment and anger. So let's start with the types of forgiveness. So sometimes we have to forgive ourselves, sometimes we have to forgive others, and sometimes we the ones who need asking who need to ask somebody to forgive us, you know. So there are definitely steps to this, okay? So I would say one of the hardest things for myself is forgiving myself, because sometimes we're like, well, why did I do that, or why didn't I do this way or that way? You know, hindsight is what 2020, okay? So we can't go back and change the past. We can only move forward, but we keep reminding ourselves of what we did. So whether it's us forgiving ourselves or forgiving somebody else, I think that's a very big piece of forgiveness, is to not to continue to bring it up, especially no matter what type of relationship it is, whether it's a relationship with a family member, a friend, or a significant other. We cannot sit there and expect them to believe that, you know, we've accepted their apology and have forgiven them if you're going to turn around and throw it in their face. To me, that's not forgiveness. Have I been guilty of doing that before in the past? I have. Have I had it done to me? Yes. Do I like it? Absolutely not. Okay. Please, let's stop doing that. So that's one thing that we have definitely got to make sure that we don't do. If you have truly said that you're going to forgive someone for something, then you have to make sure that you aren't constantly bringing that up. Now, if they come back and they do the same thing that they've asking you to forgive them for, then that's another story. Then I think that's something that just needs to be revisited. Like, hey, when this happened before, this is what was said, this is what was done. And I think that the biggest thing about being able to forgive someone is change behavior. But I think that can also bring us into something else, because sometimes you have to forgive somebody who isn't sorry. Somebody who doesn't realize what flaw or mistake or offense that they've brought to you, or they do realize and they don't care. Okay? Have y'all had that where somebody has wronged you and you felt like they owed you an apology? That apology never came. Okay? I know I've definitely dealt with that, and I feel like you can choose to cut those people out of your life and you don't have to deal with them. But I do think so that you're not feeling all tense and stressed up in your neck and walking around carrying this baggage on you, that you have to forgive them, because that's something that's weighing on you, and they walk around living their life. They may not even be thinking about that, okay? Another thing is that I've realized is sometimes things are core memories for you, but they're not core memories for other people. So something may have affected you so much that you sit up thinking about this, and you every time you see that person, that's the thought that comes to your mind. But that person don't even remember that happened. I've had that happen too, because people have come back around and they're like, well, what happened? Or, why don't we talk like we used to? Or whatever. You ever had that happen? And then you kind of bring it up like, oh, well, remember such and such happened? And they like, well, they might be like, oh, well, now that you mention it, but it wasn't that big of a deal to them. Or they didn't realize it was that big of a deal to you. And so that apology never came. Now, don't get me wrong, it still may not come. Even once you bring it to their attention, how you felt about that, you still may not get that apology. So that's the first thing that we have to realize, is that the forgiveness part is really for us, the person who is dealing with the grievance, who, was wrong, that felt wronged in the situation. We are forgiving those people for our benefit, not for theirs. I was talking to my brother on the phone the other day, and we were having a conversation, and I was telling him how I was getting ready to do the relaunch episode for Chat with Chondee, and it was going to be about forgiveness. And he got all excited, like he had a lot to say about forgiveness, and he was excited about the topic. And so he got to talking, and one thing I wrote down that he said was when Jesus was on the cross, even Jesus now, we know Jesus was perfect, and all that he went through. And even when he was on the cross, he didn't say, I forgive them. He said, Father, forgive them. Okay? So, I don't know. I'll go back and read that part and see exactly what was said, how it was said, if he ever mentioned anything else about him forgiving. But my brother brought up the point that Jesus said, Father, forgive them. Because he may not have had it in him at that moment to want to do it. And that was another point that my brother said. He said, you may forgive in the moment, but carry it with you. And if we go back to when I pulled up the definition and then what does it truly mean to forgive, one of the things that I brought up said it involves an intentional decision to let go of resentment and anger. So when you let go of something, it doesn't always necessarily mean that it doesn't come back. So I think that this whole forgiveness thing is definitely a journey. It's definitely a process. It's almost like how, they say grief comes in stages. So forgiveness can come in stages as far as acknowledging your feelings. What is it that, I felt, how was I wronged in this situation? And then sometimes you have to look at it as in, were you really wrong, or was somebody just making you hold yourself accountable for something? So sometimes it's not always about that, but in the fact that if it is something they actually were wrong for, and you need to forgive them for, acknowledge your feelings, maybe even communicate. Okay, let's communicate with the people, acknowledge what their feelings are in the matter, because it can just be a misunderstanding, and that can make it easier to let go of things. Now, if we let go of something and it's out there, we need to also be mindful of what triggers it to come back, because when we start feeling that resentment and anger again, that's not good. Okay, that's not forgiveness. That's us holding on to it. And that goes back to forgiveness falling under the health in the chat with Chondee, because our mental health and our physical health are very important. Because if you're holding on to resentment, if that's just like, what's the saying goes, if you're eating the poison, it's not going to kill that person. It's going to kill you. So we don't want to eat the poison. So that's what holding on to that does. If you're not able to communicate with the person, one thing that I like to do, I do like to journal. You can do this by writing. physically writing it out in a notebook. I still like to put pen to paper, okay? So you can do that. I know a lot of things now with technology. You can do it on your phone, your iPad, your laptop, whatever. Do it digitally. You can say, hey, Siri, and write it out. And maybe that's a good idea. Get out, like type it out or whatever on your digital device. So that's a cool thing to do. But either way, you're getting it out. Maybe writing a letter. That's something that when I was going to therapy before, that was like a homework thing they have you do, to write a letter to someone. And you don't necessarily have to give it to that person if you feel compelled to. Now, go for it. But you can just write the letter to express your feelings and to get it out, because like my granddaddy used to say, it's better out than in, okay? Overall, I just feel like forgiving someone, forgiving yourself, or even asking for forgiveness, um, it can take time. These things can take time, but it can also reduce stress, bring peace and positivity to your life. So anytime something can do that, let's definitely go for that. I have enjoyed talking about forgiveness today. I have enjoyed bringing a spotlight on this National Day of Forgiveness, September the 1st, or whenever you choose to observe it. Check out the national holiday calendar and see what other days there are out there that you might want to observe. Make sure that you are subscribed to the Chat with Chondee YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. Also, make sure you're following me on all social media platforms at Chat with Chondee, and comment and let me know what's going on. Also, I'm going to be starting a blog, so we shall see if by the time this video posts, if that blog is available. If it is, that will be out on my Instagram. It'll be on my Instagram that you'll see that, as well as I'll put the link on YouTube as well, where we can just continue the conversation and talk about more culture, health, arts, and travel. See you next time, and thank you for joining Chat with Chondee.